What does a committed relationship really mean? I hear you saying that you want a guy to make a commitment to you. You want a guy to want to have a committed relationship with you. You're wondering if you'll ever find a guy who really wants a committed relationship in the first place. Maybe you've started dating a guy and you want to know if he's going to want a committed relationship or if he's going to turn into a stringer. You know, a guy who strings you along for years only to finally break it off. Or maybe you've already been strung along for a while now and you want to know how to get him to finally make a real commitment. Or it might be that you're single and you want to know how to find a man that is ready for a commitment because all of the men that you've met so far have turned out to be non-committal. But what really is a committed relationship? What really is it? What does a committed relationship really mean? Well, my question to you is this. What does a committed relationship look like to you? What does commitment really mean? Have you ever really sat down and thought about what it is exactly that you're looking for when you say you want a committed relationship? When you say that you want a guy to commit? Well, most of us haven't. And the truth is that it's such a difficult term to define, particularly in our culture of texting, hanging out, and hooking up. Now, in the past, things were simpler. A commitment meant an engagement to be married, along with a ring on your finger, and a date set for the wedding. Most women would not even consider a partner to be exclusive unless they were officially engaged. Until that point, they were just courting, and she, as well as he, could date or court as many others as they chose. Well, it's not that way anymore. We now have things like friends with benefits to make sure we're hyper aware that things are different. Well, here are a few definitions of committed relationship that I've heard when I ask what it means. The simplest and the most common definition that I've heard is being exclusive. You and your partner are exclusive, meaning neither one of you are dating anyone else. This term can apply regardless of whether you're already physically intimate or not. And while this is a big part of a committed relationship, it's more than being exclusive. It's more than being committed. Commitment means so much more than just being exclusive. Being exclusive just means that neither of you are going to date other people. But that can end so quickly, particularly if either one of you hasn't taken down your online profile, or if you're in that mindset. In order for this to really be the first stage of a committed relationship, it has to mean that both you and your partner are completely closed to other options, either online or in the real world. It also means being faithful so that each partner can trust that the other won't accidentally wind up with someone else. Okay, and then there's being dedicated. This is where you're not only exclusive, but both of you are 100% dedicated to making the relationship work. It means you're putting energy into making it work no matter what happens, and you're both motivated to stay together for the long haul. This is the second stage of a committed relationship where some of the magic has started to fade, and you both start noticing each other's faults, and those faults of his have suddenly gotten so annoying. It's where you start to realize that you do in fact disagree on some things. This is where a lot of those so-called committed relationships that were really just an agreement of temporary exclusivity break down and fall apart. This is where it starts to require some effort, some compromise. And this is also where true commitment starts, because it means that you're both willing to work things out instead of just breaking up at the first sign of anything that doesn't resemble the fairy tale. Well, the next stage is engaged. This is again a deeper stage of commitment, as long as it follows the dedication stage. If you've gotten engaged after a 3-day whirlwind romance in the Bahamas, then it probably doesn't mean anything. Engagements can, of course, still be broken off, so it's not a guarantee that you're truly in a long-term committed relationship. However, it's still pretty much the best sign that you have that things are heading that way. Again, it really depends on the dedication that's present. Some people get engaged, but then they never set a date or make any wedding plans. Before you know it, you've been engaged for like 5 years and you're not any closer to saying I do. I think at this stage that his actions are what's important. The more he's actively participating in the planning of the wedding, the more committed he is to the relationship. And then, of course, there's marriage. And as I said earlier, many people feel like it's not really a committed relationship until you've both exchanged vows and said, I do. While in most cultures, divorce is an option, it's not easy physically, emotionally, or financially, making it a further deepening of the commitment. On the other hand, maybe you don't feel like you need to be married to feel committed. Some couples have had long committed relationships without ever being married. Think of Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell, or Oprah Winfrey and Stedman Graham. Even if you do get married, is that a guarantee of complete commitment? Well, no. Being married and having the ring on your finger is only a symbol of the commitment. The true commitment is in the day-to-day living of your lives together, where almost everything you do affects each other. So what's deeper than marriage? Married and dedicated. See, this is where you're not only married, but you're 100% devoted to making the marriage work. This is a strengthening of the dedication in the relationship that was hopefully already present in the earlier stage. But within each of these definitions, there are other deeper, more subtle sub-definitions, like being a part of each other's lives. For example, if he spends a holiday with your family, is it okay if he just shows up but spends the day on the couch watching the football game? Or do you want him to spend that time getting to know your family and getting involved in any issues or discussions that involve their lives? Where does independence come in? Are you the type of woman who likes her own independence, likes to be able to have a girls' night out or a girls' weekend? Do you like to go out to lunch or for coffee with your own friends once a week? What about friends of the opposite sex? Is it okay for you to go hang out with an ex or for him to hang out with an ex? Does it involve complete honesty? Is it okay to have secrets? Will he mind if you pick up his phone and look through his contacts or listen to his voicemails? How about his email? How about your lives being completely intertwined? For example, does it mean that you share all your bank accounts, finances, etc.? Or do you and he have separate accounts? How do you set it up? Some of these may be in the future. As I said earlier, there are several different stages of commitment, but it's so important to know what you want in not only the current stage that you're in, but also in the next stages to come, so that you're not surprised when you get there. You might be on the same page as he is in the beginning, but once you have 2 kids and a big mortgage, that's not the time to find out that your ideas of commitment are really different from each other. When you look at couples who are in authentic, committed relationships, it all becomes really clear. Commitment is what you and your significant other have mutually decided it is. And more importantly, it's supporting and respecting that vision for each other. It may involve compromising and being willing to consider a viewpoint different from your own and being open to that. It also involves each of you committing to caring for each other in the same way that you care for yourself. Commitment also requires that each partner choose it themselves. I don't believe anyone can force you to commit to something. You can certainly try, but ultimately a true commitment that comes from the heart has to come from each person of their own free will. Commitment is about feelings, thoughts, and maybe most importantly of all, it's about actions. Ultimately, actions are going to speak louder than words or thoughts or feelings. Both partners have to be completely dedicated. And I would also say that both need to have the same level of expectations and definitions of what a commitment means. See, the problem is that so many of us have such a vague idea of what a committed relationship really means that it's no wonder we can't seem to find it or get it from our guy. We think of it as an unspoken bond of some sort, whether it be spiritual, emotional, physical, or some combination of all three. We think that we're going to know it when we see it. But that's not a plan. That's anyone's guess. So you see where I'm going with all this? You're not getting what you want if you're going by feel, believing in some old fairy tale line of thinking that you're just going to know it when you see it. A much better plan is to define what commitment means for you in advance. What does your future life, your future committed relationship actually look like on a daily basis? And is this something that you've both agreed on? At the end of the day, you are the only one who can say what kind of commitment you really want. So say it and write it down. Define it for yourself to the point that it's crystal clear in your mind what your vision of commitment is and exactly what it will look and feel like through each of the stages. Knowing what it is for you makes all the difference in the world. It's the difference between knowing what's important to you and what you're not willing to settle for. And the difference between getting what you want and wondering why you never do. It's how you know. So tell me, what's your definition of a committed relationship? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you there.